Good morning. Today is Wednesday, the 9th day of Iyar. It is the 24th day of the Omer we counted last night. And we begin today, chapter 44 in the Tanya. The Alter Rebbe continues to teach us ways how we can achieve serving God with passion, with love, with feelings. And in the previous chapters, the Alter Rebbe discussed different ways of achieving love of God, understanding that we have the neshama, the godly soul. And because we have the godly soul, this is by nature, we have this natural love to Hashem. However, this natural love is concealed within the physical, material body and the animalistic soul that we have. And in chapter 45, what we just finished yesterday, the Alter Rebbe explained how we another way of achieving this feelings towards Hashem is by having pity on the godly spark, the godly neshama that was connected before he came down to the body, to the physical body. He was connected in such a close way with Hashem. And now that it's in the body, it is like in prison, in jail. Having pity. And this was another way the Alter Rebbe explained. This is the midah of Yaakov Avinu, and that we can achieve this arousing the love, and that we should want to reconnect to Hashem and let the neshama reconnect, and that is done through the studying of the Torah and doing of the mitzvahs. In this chapter, the Alter Rebbe continues to teach us and says there is yet another way of achieving this goal. And this way, the Alter Rebbe says, is very, very close, meaning it's very easy to us for us. It is a straight way. And it says this is something that is achievable to every single person. Shava l'chol nefesh. That every person can achieve this love to Hashem. Now, what is the main difference between what he's going to explain now and what he explained in the previous chapters is that in the previous chapters he was talking about the love that we revealed, the hidden love of the godly soul. Now, being that this is the godly soul we're talking about, not everyone has access to it in such an easy way because it's, as we said before, it's concealed. We live in a physical world. And in a physical world, you don't necessarily appreciate the beauty of God, the closeness of God, the love to Hashem. You love other things. You love material things. Here, what he's going to explain now in this chapter, 46, he's going to explain how it is easy to achieve using methods from this physical world. And that is that the point what he's going to say, and we're going to soon start, we're going to see it inside. The point what he's saying is that this is the human condition, the human nature. How do you get to love someone? It says when you think about loving someone, when you love someone in your heart, is by nature that the other person will also return the love. Let's see how the Alter Rebbe explains this inside. Says the Alter Rebbe, the beginning of chapter 46. V'yesh derech yosho lifnei ish shove l'chol nefesh. There is yet another straight way meaning is simple and straightforward, that is equally applicable and suitable to every man, every person. V'korev adavar me'oid me'oid. And this matter is very, very close. This is using the verse that he begins the Tanya and based that korev adavar elecha, korev elecha adavar me'oid beficha belvavcha la'asosei. That this thing is very close to you, and your mouth and your heart to do it. What thing? It's to serve Hashem with love and fear. It's very close. Here the Alter Rebbe says, me'od, me'od, very, very close. What he's going to explain in this chapter is very, very close, very, very easy to achieve. And that is, says, la'oyer u'lehoyer oyer ahava atekua u'musteres b'liboy, to arouse and kindle the light of the love that is implanted and concealed in his heart. And this, we need to make it shine. That it may shine forth with intense light, like a flaming fire, in the consciousness of the heart and mind. It should be revealed in the heart and the mind. To the point, ultimately enabling the person to surrender his soul to God together with his body and material possessions. This is, by the way, we say in the Shema. We say, "V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha." You should love God, your God, b'chol levavcha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol moedecha, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Now, when a person, that's what he's going to say now, b'chol leiv u'b'chol nefesh u'me'oid. This being done with all his heart, all his soul, and all his might, with a boundless devotion of his soul's essence. He says, me'umke de libo be'emes la'amitoi, from the depth of the heart in absolute truth, to really feeling it in a true way. Ubifrat, and especially when is the most appropriate time to meditate in this is b'shas kriya Shema, when one recites the Shema, in time of recital of the Shema, ubirchisel, and its blessings. Before we say the Shema, we say the blessings, Yoitzer Oyer, Ahavas Olam, which describes the connection, the great devotion of the angels and so on to God. Kamoshes Bayer, as will be explained. So what is it? What is it the way that we're saying, the Alter Rebbe is saying, is very, very near, very, very close to us to achieve love to Hashem? Says the Alter Rebbe, V'hu, kasher yosim el liboy, when this is to take to heart, Masha Omer HaKosuf, the meaning of the verse, Kamayim aponim el aponim, Kamayim aponim laponim, Kain leiv ha'adam el ha'adam. As water mirrors the face to the face, so does the heart of man to man. Now, what is this meaning of this verse? This is a verse in Proverbs, in Mishlei. King Solomon is writing this. The simple understanding of this verse means, Kamayim aponim aponim. We have to understand the Proverbs is giving us a metaphor and giving us a moral, what we need to do. So when you're saying here that just like the face, the reflection of the face in the water, the same thing is the heart to a heart. What is it saying? There is the metaphor that when you look in the water, when you look in the water, if you smile, it smiles back. So too, this is the metaphor. And what is the moral? The moral is that the same thing should be leiv ha'adam el ha'adam. If a person acts to you in a nice way, you should return in good deeds, good act. You should act them accordingly. That's the simple understanding. But here the Alter Rebbe comes and he says pirush. Pirush means explaining. He brings his own explanation to this verse. What he's saying here is that the whole verse is really stating the fact. It says, just like there is a reflection, the reflection of the face in the water returns the same face, so too is the fact that is leiv ha'adam el adam, the heart of one person to another person. If you have a good feeling towards another person, if you think about loving another person, if you bring yourself to love another person and you think about it, this by nature will make that the other person will love you back. That is by nature. So what is the moral here? The moral here is that you have to love. And this is what you need to do. And in turn, by nature, that's what's going to happen. Now, sometimes you see you're trying and it doesn't happen. So first of all, the fact that it doesn't happen is because the person needs to be, it can be only in one place at one time. If a person is occupied in other things, he cannot think of loving you. But if they're in a situation that is available to think about it, this loving someone returns love, even if he doesn't see what you do, even if you don't do anything about it. Just thinking about it, just thinking about loving someone by nature of person, this returns love. And Alter Rebbe says here inside Pirush, this means that as in the case of the likeness and the features of the face which a man presents to the water, the identical face is reflected back to him from the water. So indeed it is also the heart of a man who is loyal in his affection for another person. So this love which he has for the other awakens a loving response for him in the heart of the friend also. That they come to love each other loyally. This is the case in any case. When you have a feeling of love, this arouses the love in the other person as well. That even if the second person doesn't see how you love him, now goes to the next step. That increases when the other person sees that love. Especially when he sees his friend's love for him freely revealed, then that makes it much more. If the other person sees how you love him, let's say you act in that way, certainly that affects him in a deeper way. That brings out the love, the corresponding love. Says the Alter Rebbe takes this further and he says, Zeu teva hanod b'midas kol adam af im shneim shovim b'mayla. He says, such is the common nature in the character of every man, even when they are equal in status. Even they're put both on the same level, appears. But when one person shows love, or has love, and especially if he shows love, it brings out a corresponding love as well. Falachas kama v'kama, im melech godoil v'rav, ma re'avoso yagdoilo, v'atzuma le'ish hedyet v'nivzer shfal anoshim. How much more so is this the case? If a great and mighty king who rules over many lands displays his great and intense love for a commoner who is despised and lowly among men, a disgraceful creature cast on the dunghill. So if a person sees love, if a person who is such in a low level, and he sees how the king himself, who is a much, much higher level, comes down and shows love to him, how much more so this will arouse the love of the low person towards the king. And he continues the description. What is the king doing to him? Yet he, the king, comes down to him from the place of his glory, together with all of his ministers together. He raises him and exalts him from the dunghill. And he brings him into his own personal chamber, the chamber of the king, the royal palace. And he goes in the palace, he goes into the innermost chambers. This, he brings him into a place where no servant and no minister is allowed to enter. Because there are certain places there are ministers allowed to enter and not a servant. And there are other places that the servant is allowed to enter because he's serving the king, and the minister is not allowed to enter. But here we're talking about entering to the innermost, most intimate place where not even the servant and not the minister is allowed to go in. And yet the king brings that person inside. And there he shares with him the closest relationship. Vekiruv amiti, shows him real closeness, true closeness. Vechibuk, venishuk, with hugging and kissing. We explained last chapter with the concept of kissing is an innermost connection. The rucha, the breath with the breath, representing the speech and the thoughts of God with the speech or thought of man. Vizdapkus rucha the rucha, and the attachment of spirit to spirit. B'chol leiv nefesh. And he does it with all his heart and soul. So thinking about this image, the king lowers himself to the low place and he brings that person up and he lifts him up and he enters, he brings him into the most innermost personal, intimate chamber. And he shows so much love to him. Al-achas kama v'kama, how much more so will there be aroused of itself, shetisayra mimela, will be aroused of itself, ava kfula umuchlepeles, that doubled and redoubled love, beleva hedyoit ushfal anashim hazeh, in the heart of this most common and humble individual, el nefesh hamelach, to the person of the king, to the soul of the king. Beiskashrus nefesh mamash mileiv and nefesh me'umke de libe leinkates. And that with a true attachment of spirit from the heart and soul, from the infinite depth of his heart. And Alter Rebbe concludes and says, "Ve'afim liboy keleva heaven," and even if his heart is like a heart of stone, himes yimas ve'oya lamayim, then it will be surely melted and become like water. Even a person with a heart of stone, when he sees what the king does to him, certainly it will melt. And his soul will pour itself out like water, with a soulful longing for the love of the king. The Alter Rebbe will continue tomorrow's lesson, how this applies also to how we apply it to our relationship with Hashem. And this is, of course, really also good advice when we're talking about the relationship between humans. Because the Alter Rebbe here explains how the King Solomon tells us that this is nature. When you see a situation that you need to repair relationship, the way to do it is by showing love, by having love and showing love and thinking. And certainly if both sides do it, that certainly will bring out the love from the inside. If you think only positive about the other person, and you think about the love to the other person, that brings out the love in the corresponding way. So this is the end of today's shir. Thank you so much for joining. Please make sure to share this, subscribe, and click notifications. Anyone has any questions, we can discuss this now.